Debt, Lesson 8, Court-Issued Debts. In this lesson, you're going to learn all about child support, alimony, and judgment liens. This is all adulting stuff that probably doesn't apply to you right now, but you might find yourself in one of these situations in the future, so it's really important to understand the basics.
These debts are known as non-dischargeable debts. A non-dischargeable debt is a fancy way of saying this is a type of debt that doesn't go away, even if you file for bankruptcy. You typically only file bankruptcy if you're so deep in debt that you can't pay all of your bills. Filing for a bankruptcy makes most types of debts, like credit cards, medical bills, and personal loans, go away. But a bankruptcy is a last resort option, and it destroys your credit for up to 10 years. The main types of non-dischargeable debts are child support, alimony, judgment liens, taxes owed to the government, and death or injury awards caused by drunk driving.
The first one we're going to cover is child support. When you have a kid, it's your legal duty to provide reasonable financial support for them. It doesn't matter if you get a divorce or you were never married to begin with, it's the law to provide financial support for your kid or kids. When there's a dispute between parents who will be financially responsible for the child or the children, the court determines what amount of financial support the non-custodial parent is responsible for. Now, if you don't know, a non-custodial parent is the parent that the child doesn't live with full-time. A child support order is a legal order from the court that determines which parent will pay the child support and the amount they're going to pay, how often they have to pay it, and who receives the child support payment. If the parent responsible for paying child support can't afford to make the payments, or they decide to stop making the payments, they're still responsible for financially supporting the kid. Most states charge interest on the amount that's owed in back child support, and this is done as a penalty for not upholding their end of the court order and providing financial support for their child. A wage assignment is where the court sends a letter to the employer to automatically deduct the child support from the non-custodial parent's paycheck. And what that means is that the court will take the money that's owed directly from the non-custodial parent's paycheck before they ever even get paid to ensure that the other parent is getting the money to support their child. I grew up with a single mom, and I was one of 4 kids. My mom and dad were never married, and my dad was supposed to pay child support, but that never really happened. He ended up owing a lot of money in back child support, and when my grandpa passed away, my dad got a decent inheritance. But before he ever even got his hands on any of the money, the government took all the money that he owed my mom, plus interest, and paid her for all the years of child support that she never received. If someone can't pay the child support, filing for bankruptcy won't help. Child support is considered a priority debt, which is why it isn't dischargeable like credit cards or medical bills. Filing for bankruptcy doesn't waive the legal responsibilities of providing child support.
The next type of non-dischargeable debt is alimony. This is where one person is ordered by a court to financially support their spouse after a divorce. Examples of this could be where the wife quits her career and stays at home to raise the kids while the husband keeps progressing in his career and supports the family. If they get a divorce, he could have to pay alimony to his ex-wife to help her maintain the same lifestyle that they had had during their marriage. The reason for this is because if she left her career to take care of her family, it's going to put her at a huge financial disadvantage if she were to go back into the workforce because she lost out on years of experience and possible promotions. Another example of this is where if the wife were making $100,000 a year and the husband was making $60,000 a year, if they got a divorce, because she earned more money, she could owe him alimony to help him maintain the lifestyle that they had had while they were married. The length of time that someone is responsible for paying for alimony depends on state laws and how long people were married for. Typically, if a couple was married for less than 10 years, the alimony is going to be owed for half of that time frame. So if they were married for 8 years, then they'll pay 4 years of alimony. If they were married for 10 or more years, alimony typically won't have a termination date. Alimony in this case usually only ends when one person dies or the person receiving alimony gets remarried. Just like with child support payments and everything else in this lesson, bankruptcy won't make this type of debt go away. It's a financial responsibility for domestic support that is mandated by a court.
Another type of non-dischargeable debt is a money judgment. If you borrowed money or had services performed and weren't required to use something as collateral, that's known as an unsecured debt. You can have a money judgment against you for things like unpaid credit card balances, unpaid medical bills, unpaid rent, damages to a rental unit, had your vehicle repossessed, or didn't pay another type of business for their services like you were supposed to. A money judgment is an aggressive way for that business to force you to pay what you owe. However, they have to sue you in court and prove that you owed that money. Once they prove that you owe the money, the court can give that business or an individual the legal right to garnish your wages, which means that they can take money from your paycheck before you ever get paid. They can also levy your bank account, which is where they have access to your bank account and they're legally able to withdraw funds. Failure to repay the money judgments can result in seizure or selling of your property, like land, cars, houses, boats, or anything of value that you possess. But that's pretty rare because it requires a lot of effort by an individual or a business to take your stuff and then go sell it. It's a lot more common to have your wages garnished or for them to levy your bank account.
Judgments are official decisions that are declared by a judge. A judgment lien is where a creditor is given authorization to take possession of a debtor's property and sell it if the debtor fails to repay the debt that they owe. Failure to repay money judgments can result in judgment liens. This is where a judge authorizes the local sheriff to seize or sell off your property, such as land, a house, a car, a boat, or anything that you have of value. It's considered a non-consensual lien because the judge places a lien against your property without your consent or agreement. Even a contractor can put a lien on your property. So if you hire a contractor to work on your house and you don't pay them for the work that they did, they could put a lien on your house. And in most states, they don't even need to have a signed contract. A verbal agreement is enough to sue you in court for non-payment. Once again, bankruptcy won't save you from this type of debt.
You can technically be judgment proof if you don't own any valuable property or you're out of work. If you don't have anything they can take from you, then you're considered judgment proof. For now, being judgment proof is not a permanent status. Once you get a job, your wages can and probably will be garnished. If you don't own any property right now, but plan to one day buy a house or a nice car, the lien can still be attached to your future property. Liens can stay on your credit report for up to 10 years. And even after you pay the lien, it could still stay on your credit for up to 7 years.
There are other types of debt that are non-dischargeable that are worth mentioning. If you badly injure or kill someone in a car accident that you had caused because you were driving under the influence, a court can mandate that you pay the victim or the victim's family restitution as part of your criminal conviction. So if that person can no longer work, a court can mandate that you compensate them for loss of current and future earnings. If your car insurance doesn't cover up to that amount, you're going to be personally responsible for it.
Student loans are almost impossible to have discharged, so we wanted to mention them again. If you stop making payments on your student loans and they go into default, a court can allow them to garnish up to 15% of your wages. And federal student loans can even garnish your wages without a lawsuit or judgment.
In this lesson, you learned about non-dischargeable debts like child support, alimony, and judgment liens. You found out what can happen if you stop paying these debts that you owe and just how expensive those can be. The financial impact that it's going to have on you can last for decades if you're not responsible with paying these types of debt. In the next lesson, we'll cover the pros and cons of using debt consolidation.